So in this video we're going to take a quick look at these quote marks in Python and PHP. It would be better if I kind of had both windows on the screen at the same time so you can see the difference. Let's just squish this up. There we go, and squish this up. Okay. So let's delete these two lines here. So I've only got one line, and save both of them. Now, when we have these words, notice that in green in Python, hello is between two quote marks, and it's grey in PHP. If I just use a single quote mark, then well, let's use two quote marks, one at the start and one at the end in both languages. There you go. So I've surrounded my word hello with single quote marks instead of double quote marks, and I think we're going to find that that's going to make absolutely no difference whatsoever. So if I run it in Python, it's going to print hello. There we go, nicely. And if I refresh my page, it's just going to put hello up there nicely. However, I need matching quotes. So if I use double, I must start with a double and end with a double. If I start with a double and end with a single, in both cases I'm going to get an error. So let's run the Python version. There's my error while scanning string literal. Let's close that window, and if I refresh this page, I get a parse error. Unexpected end of file, blah blah blah. So in both of these, it did not like the fact that I started off with a double quote and ended up with a single quote. So let's do it the other way around. Let's have a single quote and end with a double quote in both languages. Single quote, end with a double quote. So save that and save that. Let's run the Python one first. There you go, it didn't like it. And if I refresh my page, again, it didn't like it. So the moral of this story is that you need a matching set of quotes. Now, why different sets of quotes? Well, it just depends on what you're doing. Let's change this back to a double quote, and let's put a word that requires an apostrophe. That's. So I want a word that requires an apostrophe, and what I'm going to do is enclose it with double quotes. So I'm going to save it there. I'm going to, whoops, save it there. Run it in Python. And it prints that. Refresh my page and it prints that. So if we've got a word with an apostrophe, we need to surround it with double quotes. We can't use single quotes. So there you go, I've used single quotes with the word that's. In both cases I'm going to get a problem. So run it in Python. Invalid syntax. And it's told me I've got a problem there. And if I refresh my page there, it tells me that I've made an error there. So what is happening is I must have an even number of quotation marks. The problem here is I've got 3, and it wouldn't help if I just put another one on the end to have an even one, because that would now be something called concatenation, and it wouldn't understand what the S was in both cases. So I'd still get an error. In both cases. There we go. So it's not a case that I've got to have an even number. The case is that I must have a start and an end being the same item, and that so I'm starting and ending with a double quote, and I must not use a double quote inside my string. I could use a single quote but not a double quote. Same goes for this one. I must start it and end the string with a double quote, and I can use a single quote inside. So if I save and run that, that's happy, and save and reload that, that is happy. And I can do exactly the same. I can start with a single quote and end with a single quote, but I must not use a single quote inside, but I could use a double quote. So start with a single quote, end with a single quote, and have a double quote in the middle, and both of those will be happy, and we'll print that with a double quote on the screen. So let's run this. Looks a bit weird, but it worked. And the same goes for this one. Looks a bit weird, but it worked. Now, if I wanted to, I could have that, and I could escape by using a backslash. So that's telling me to ignore that as part of the string and actually print out the single apostrophe. So I'm doing it in both languages. Let's start off with Python, and it prints that, and this time I've got 3, and they're included, but I have put a backslash in front which stands for the escape character, and it allows me to print that out. In other words, not include it as part of the start and end, if that makes sense. And the same will happen with my PHP. It prints that, doesn't crash. So I've got a couple of ways of doing it. Either I can use double quotes if I wanted the apostrophe, or I can use the backslash, and we call that escaping. And the majority of the time we use this method, escaping the character. There's quite a few escape characters. That'll be a little homework for you to have a look at. So that is quote marks, really. I've only dealt with strings and quote marks. It's up to you to practice those.